Hey, I'm Lily, 22, from a small town called Willow Creek, New York, where my family runs an old antique shop. Growing up, my older brother Ethan seemed like the perfect guy, always smiling, charming everyone. But he had a dark side, getting violent and breaking things at home. My parents, Margaret and David, always made excuses for him, saying he was just stressed. One night, Ethan hurt my friend Sarah so badly she ended up in the hospital, and I found a box under his desk that revealed a secret that turned my life upside down. Before I get into how that box changed everything about my family, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever dealt with a family secret that shook you. Trust me, what I found in that shop's attic is something you won't believe. Our family's antique shop in Willow Creek was my whole world growing up, filled with old clocks and dusty furniture, but it was never a safe place. My older brother Ethan could charm anyone with his smile, but when he got angry, he'd break things at home, sometimes even hitting me or Mom. My parents, Margaret and David, always covered for him, saying he was just having a rough day. I spent years protecting my younger brother Caleb, keeping him calm during Ethan's outbursts by reading him stories. By high school, I was dreaming of getting out, counting down to college in Boston. But during my senior year, I brought my friend Sarah home for spring break. One night, Ethan came home drunk, his eyes wild. He cornered Sarah in the shop's back room, grabbed her arm, and twisted until her wrist snapped. She screamed, blood dripping from a cut where she hit a glass display case. I jumped in, pulling him off, my hands shaking as I yelled for Dad. He called the police, and they took Ethan away, his laughter echoing down the street. Sarah was crying, holding her wrist, and the shop's dusty shelves felt like they were closing in on us. I looked at Caleb, his face pale, and knew this couldn't go on. "This has to stop," I said, my voice steady despite the fear, ready to do whatever it took to keep Ethan from hurting anyone else. The morning after Ethan attacked Sarah, I sat at our kitchen table in Willow Creek, the bitter smell of Mom's coffee filling the air, the silence heavy between us. "Why do you keep letting Ethan get away with this?" I asked, my voice loud, shaking with years of frustration from dodging his anger. Mom stared at her mug, her fingers gripping it tightly. "He's got problems, Lily," she said, barely looking up. Dad sat across from her, his hands trembling around his own cup, saying nothing. Caleb, my younger brother, stayed quiet in the corner, his pencil scratching fast in his notebook, like he was trying to block it all out. "Problems don't excuse breaking Sarah's wrist," I said, my words sharp. Sarah, her arm now in a cast, had packed her bags and left for a motel, too scared to stay in our house. "Get him locked up, Lily," she told me in the car, her voice steady despite the pain. "He's dangerous." I couldn't argue with that. Later that day, I went back to the antique shop, where Dad pulled me into the storeroom, the air thick with dust and the smell of old wood. "Ethan has bipolar disorder," he said, his voice so quiet I barely heard him. "We found out when he was 15. We didn't tell you or Caleb to keep you safe." I stood there stunned, my heart racing. "Safe?" "He's been hitting us forever," I said, my voice breaking. Dad's eyes got wet, his shoulders slumping. "We took him to doctors, tried therapy, but he wouldn't stick with it," he said. I felt sick. They'd known about his condition for years and kept it secret, letting him hurt us to avoid dealing with it. I drove straight to the police station with Sarah, her cast a constant reminder of what Ethan had done. We filed charges against him for assault, my hands shaking as I signed the papers. Mom called me that night, her voice cracking over the phone. "He needs help, not jail, Lily," she begged. "He needs to face what he did," I said, hanging up before she could argue. Caleb looked at me across the room and nodded, his quiet support giving me strength. We decided to tell our story to the local newspaper, not to hurt Ethan, but to stop hiding the truth about our family. The article came out a week later, and people in town started talking. Some stared at us in the grocery store, but others left notes at the shop saying they'd dealt with similar problems at home. Ethan's old friend showed up at the diner one night, yelling at me, saying I was ruining Ethan's life. I stood up, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "We're done protecting him," I told him, staring him down until he backed off. I knew we were just starting, but Caleb and I were ready to keep pushing forward, no matter what came next. A few weeks after Ethan's arrest, I was cleaning the shop's storeroom, the air heavy with dust and the faint creak of floorboards under my feet. Under his old desk, scratched and wobbly, I found a locked box, its metal edges rusted from years of neglect. My hands shook as I pried it open with a screwdriver, revealing a pile of letters, faded photos, and a small notebook with Ethan's messy handwriting. I sat on the floor, flipping through pages that described his anger, how he felt trapped in his own head, hating himself for what he did. One page hit me hard. "Lily's always been better than me. She doesn't even know it." My throat tightened, tears falling as I thought of the brother who used to sneak me candy, now lost to his rage. I showed the notebook to Caleb, his hands trembling as he read it in the dim storeroom light. "He's not all bad, is he?" he said softly, his voice full of hope and pain. I hugged him, unsure what to feel. Then a letter arrived in the mail, no name, just a small key and a note in plain handwriting. "Check the attic." My heart raced as I climbed the shop's rickety ladder, the attic dark, with cobwebs brushing my face and the smell of old paper everywhere. I found a small safe hidden behind a stack of crates, its lock clicking open with the key. Inside was a property deed in Mom's maiden name, dated before I was born, and a photo of her smiling with a man labeled Robert, 1985. My stomach dropped, my hands cold as I clutched the photo. I marched to the shop's main room, where Mom was dusting a shelf and held up the photo. "Who's this?" I asked, my voice sharp. She froze, her face going pale, the cloth slipping from her hand. "It's nothing," she said, but her voice shook. Dad, standing nearby, looked down, his jaw tight. "Your mom had an affair," he said quietly. "Robert's your real dad." I felt like the world stopped, the shop's shelves blurring around me. "You lied to me my whole life?" I yelled, my voice echoing in the quiet store. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We wanted you to feel like our daughter," she said, her words weak. Caleb grabbed my hand, his grip steadying me as I shook with anger. "You let Ethan hurt me because I wasn't really yours," I said, my heart breaking with every word. Dad looked away. Mom sobbed, and their silence confirmed it. A secret they'd buried for years, shattering the family I thought I knew. I stood there, holding Caleb's hand, knowing this truth changed everything. I needed answers, so I drove to the county prison, my stomach tight as I walked through the heavy metal gates. The visiting room was cold, with gray concrete walls and a scratched plastic divider between us. Ethan sat across from me, his grin the same one he used to charm customers, like nothing had changed. "So you know you're not one of us?" he said, leaning forward, his voice sharp. I stared at him, my heart pounding. "You knew?" I asked. He nodded, his eyes glinting. "Mom told me years ago. Said I was her real kid, not you." His words felt like a punch, but I kept my face steady. "You're not my family anymore," I said, standing up, my voice firm as I walked out, ignoring his laugh behind me. Back at the shop, things got scarier. A guy showed up one evening, his boots loud on the wooden floor, his face half hidden under a hoodie. "Ethan owes me money from a deal," he said, standing too close, his breath smelling of cigarettes. "Pay up, or Caleb gets hurt." My hands shook, but I told him to get out, slamming the door and locking it tight. That night, I checked every lock twice, my heart racing. Then, a few days later, someone broke into the shop after closing. They smashed a lock on Mom's private cabinet and stole a valuable necklace she kept hidden, leaving a note on the counter. "Ethan says hi." My blood ran cold as I read it, the shop's dark shelves feeling like a trap. Caleb found me holding the note, his face pale. "He's still messing with us," he said, his voice small, his hands clutching his sketchbook. I hugged him tight, feeling his fear. "We're done with this," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. We sat up late, planning to move to Boston after I graduated, to start over somewhere safe. I got a job at a coffee shop in town, saving every dollar I earned, while Caleb signed up for art classes, his drawings starting to show brighter colors, like he was finding hope. Sarah came to visit, her wrist healed, but her eyes cautious. "You're stronger than you know, Lily," she said, sitting with us in the shop's back room, her words giving me strength. The shop felt heavy with Ethan's shadow, but Caleb and I were determined to leave it behind, ready to build a life free from his threats. Caleb and I packed up and moved to Boston, renting a tiny apartment with creaky floors and a small window overlooking a busy street, a world away from Willow Creek's quiet. We filled it with cheap takeout boxes and laughter, finally feeling like we could breathe. I got a job at a coffee shop, the sound of steaming milk and chatter becoming my new normal, while Caleb signed up for art classes at a community center, his paintings bursting with bright colors, like he was painting his way out of our past. I started therapy, sitting in a cozy office with a kind woman who helped me talk through years of Ethan's anger and Mom's lies. Each session made me feel a little lighter, like I was letting go of the hurt. I tracked down Robert, my real dad, in Albany, driving 3 hours to a small house with a cluttered porch and stacks of old books inside. He opened the door, his eyes filling with tears when he saw me. "I never knew you existed," he said, his voice soft. We sat at his kitchen table, talking for hours about his life as a teacher, my childhood, and Mom's secrets. It wasn't family yet, but it was honest. And I kept a photo of him and Mom from years ago, a piece of truth I could carry. Sarah came to visit, her wrist healed, her smile stronger. Over coffee at a crowded cafe, she said, "You stood up to Ethan when I couldn't, Lily." That took guts. Her words warmed me, reminding me we weren't alone. Mom and Dad had split up. Mom moved to a cabin upstate. Dad stayed in the antique shop, their calls short and awkward, like they didn't know how to reach us. Caleb looked at me one night, his voice quiet but sure. "They chose Ethan over us," he said. I nodded, deciding to keep them at a distance to protect our peace. One evening, Caleb showed me a painting he'd finished, a bright Boston skyline, glowing with life. "We're free, Lily," he said, his eyes shining with pride. I hugged him tight, my heart full, knowing our past was fading, replaced by the life we were building together. Years later, Boston has become our home, its busy streets and bright lights a world away from the quiet, heavy air of Willow Creek's antique shop. I graduated from college, my degree in art history now hanging on the wall of our small apartment, and I landed a job at a museum downtown. I spend my days surrounded by paintings and sculptures, each one telling a story of struggle and survival, just like ours. Caleb's talent has taken off. His paintings are displayed in a local gallery, their bold colors drawing crowds who whisper about his work. People stop him on the street sometimes, asking about his next show, and I can't help but smile at how far he's come from the quiet kid sketching in corners to escape Ethan's anger. We got a dog Scout, a scruffy mutt with floppy ears who barks at delivery trucks and curls up on our couch every night, making us laugh with his goofy antics. He's part of our little family now, a reminder that we've built something real. Ethan had a parole hearing a while back, but I didn't go. Caleb, always the softer one, wrote him a letter, forgiving him for the pain, but making it clear we're keeping our distance. I read the letter before he sent it, and it brought tears to my eyes. His words were kind but firm, showing a strength I didn't know he had. We got word through a cousin that Mom passed away last year. Her cabin upstate sold off to pay debts. Dad's in a care home now, his voice frail when he calls, but we don't talk much. They're choices, Protecting Ethan, hiding the truth about my real dad, left a gap we can't bridge. Robert, my biological dad, visits every few months, driving up from Albany with a bag of books or a story about his teaching days. We sit in our cramped living room, sipping coffee, talking about small things, movies, weather, his old dog. It's not a full family yet, but it's honest, and every visit feels like a step forward. I keep that old photo of him and Mom, taken back in 1985, on my nightstand, a reminder of the truth we uncovered. Sarah checks in sometimes too, her life back on track, her smile brighter than ever. Over lunch one day she said, "You and Caleb are unstoppable now," and I felt a warmth I hadn't known in years. That night Ethan hurt Sarah. When I found the box under his desk and the safe in the attic, could have broken us. The secrets, Ethan's bipolar disorder, my real dad, Mom's lies, could have torn us apart. But they didn't. They showed me family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who stays by your side, who believes in you when things get hard. Caleb and I built a life together, messy and full of scars, but ours. We've got our apartment, our dog, our dreams, mine at the museum, Caleb's in his art. Every day we're choosing who we want to be, not what our past tried to make us. I think about Willow Creek sometimes, the shop's dusty shelves, the weight of all those secrets. It feels like another life, one we left behind to find something better. If you've ever had to face a family secret, something that shook your world, you know it's not easy. Maybe you fought to protect someone you love, or you walked away from people who hurt you. That's your strength, your story. It's what builds your home. I've been there, digging through lies to find truth, and I'm here to tell you, you get to choose your family. Have you ever uncovered a secret that changed everything? Drop your story in the comments. I really want to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories about breaking free from the past, and share this with someone who needs to know. Your family is who you choose, not the secrets they keep.